Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from AnthonysCustoms, and for this review we are looking at the SH Figuarts Kinnikuman the Ninja figure, which is a figure that looks pretty cool. I like a lot of the design choices on this guy, so I'm pretty happy to be reviewing it. He does seem a little bit lanky, and you guys can let me know if you're familiar with Kinnikuman, if he's supposed to be that way, or if it's just kind of the result of the articulation on this particular example. But I don't think it's so bad that it's really a problem, and he does have particularly nice articulation, so that's a good thing. So let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about 16 centimeters, which makes him right around 6¼ inches, so he's not the smallest. The Kinnikuman figures generally have some size to him, and he fits in pretty well in the middle, I think. He's, well, maybe on the small end. He's okay, though. And he's pretty aesthetically pleasing. We have the mostly flat blue for his overall outfit. Then we have the metallic blue for the scale mail throughout his elbows and chest. We have the very metallic gold throwing stars on his chest, which somewhat resemble nipples. I hope that's not what they're supposed to be, but that's what they look like. We have metallic gunmetal for the gauntlets and for the boots. And then we have flat black for the actual feet themselves. This is also flat. So it's pretty cool. I mean, I like the composition these guys have. This metallic silvery blue is also very nice. And he does have some black shading throughout, so it's pretty aesthetically pleasing. I like it. I would argue that the face is especially pale. Now, I'm assuming it's supposed to be like that, but it's lacking some sort of something. It doesn't look quite right. Maybe just a little bit of shading. I don't know. So before we talk about the figure anymore, let's talk accessories. We have a total of 3 interchangeable heads. We have the fairly neutral one. We have one yelling head without any issues, and then we have one yelling head with like the sweat coming off the side. So he's a little bit more distressed looking. We have 7 hands. We have 2 fist hands, 2 hinged kind of flat hands, and 2 hinged sort of gripping hands, and 1 finger pointing hand. And then lastly, we have 2 folding chairs, which are nicely detailed. I mean, for being basic chairs, they look pretty good. So now let's talk about the articulation of this guy. He's got a ball peg for the head and a ball peg for the neck. The scarf thing is a floating piece with a ball peg on the back. So you can move the head around pretty well. You're going to be somewhat limited just because the scarf is plastic, and so you can't push through it. But you have pretty good range, and I think you won't have too much trouble. And if you want to move the scarf around, you can do that. So that's kind of nice. We have this very versatile butterfly joint, which doesn't look that great once it's open, but it does give you pretty good range. It's a ball peg, so it'll move around pretty well. You can get a lot of versatility out of that. And then we have our ball peg connected into the butterfly, which lets the arm move around on top of it, which leads into our ball hinge, which again lets the arm move pretty well. So you're not going to have too much trouble posing this guy, really, except the ball peg that goes into the butterfly is kind of stiff. You're going to have maybe some issues with that, but that's hardly a big deal. You do get your bicep swivel out of there, so that could be a little bit better. Definitely not ideal to have such a bulky shoulder with the bicep swivel built into the articulation. You have your double jointed elbow, which works nicely. It's not probably the best design just because the elbow itself is a different color than the painted parts, so it's a little disappointing. But you do get your swivel out of that if you want it. These guys are known for that. I don't especially like that added articulation, but it's not going to hurt anything, so that's okay. For the wrist, we have a ball hinge, which works nicely. You'll have decent range out of that. And for the torso, we have a giant ball peg in there with a hinge on it, so you can lean him forward and back, and you can move him around on that ball peg. It gives him really good range. You do end up with some gapping, obviously, if you go all the way, but that's almost a 90-degree bend. So that's pretty good. You don't usually see that, so I like that a whole lot. Lean side to side also. And then down here, we also have another hinge for the torso. This is technically a floating piece, and so is this, but you do get the articulation, and it's very well hidden. I like it. For the hips, you have a hinged ball peg, so you can move it around as it is, or you can drop it down to give yourself a little bit better range. The legs don't go out completely to the side, but pretty darn close, so that's really nice. And then you can bring the legs pretty far forward, but it's going to be hard to keep the legs square. You're going to have to kind of rotate it a little bit, and even then, it's still going to throw it off to the side just a little bit. You do have your thigh swivel. I don't know if I mentioned that, but you do have a thigh swivel in there, so that'll help. Double jointed knees work pretty well. I mean, you get decent range out of them. They're not the best looking in the world, but they'll get the job done. They don't stand out as being offensively ugly or anything like that. And you should still get... There should be rotation in there, but it looks like he's too bulky to really use it. Is it in there? Yeah, it's right here. So it doesn't really afford much at all, but it is in there. And then for the ankles, I love these ankles. They're a little bit limited going forward, but not by too much. They go all the way back, and you can rotate that around because it's actually a ball hinge to get a perfect ankle rocker. I wish every figure had ankles like this. They look good, and they function well. You can't really beat it. So all in all, this guy's a really solid figure. If you're collecting the Kinnikuman Figuarts, this is one you want to pick up. I think he's easily worth the purchase. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. That helps me out a whole bunch, and I do appreciate it. And make sure you subscribe. I have new videos up every single day, sometimes more than one. And we talk about all kinds of things. We talk about movies, TV shows, video games, and of course action figures and collectibles. So come back for all of that fun stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.